Today, I'd like to talk about your higher self. In fact, I'd like to talk about everybody's higher self. There may be some spirit guides involved, there may be some angels involved, there may even be some dogs involved. So, I invite you to come walk with me just for a few minutes. Now, why do I talk about the higher self so much? Well, because this is who you really are. This is the most important part of you, this eternal, non physical part of who you are. Now, of course, whatever I'm sharing here, this is the understanding, the awareness that we had back in Lemuria, where we were much higher vibrating, living in a higher dimension than we are right now. And so in that higher frequency, in that higher dimension, we were aware of our connection with one another, but we were also aware of the connection that our higher selves had. So that's the basis for what I'm sharing with you today. And if you're new around here, I use the term higher self to refer to this eternal non-physical part of who you are. I know there are many terms out there, and I know some people use the term higher self for something a little bit different. But for clarity, when I use the term higher self, it refers to this non-physical, multidimensional part of who you are that exists beyond the third dimension, beyond the illusions of time and space. It is truly eternal and limitless and directly connected to source energy. So from my point of view, from a Lemurian point of view, that's who you truly are. This human incarnation is a temporary experience. You have taken a focus of your part of your light and you have focused it here into this third dimensional earth plane, and here you are as a temporary extension of your higher self, here just for the experience, not to save the planet, not to save humanity, not to prove yourself. You are just here for the experience. You are here because you are part of the evolution of all that is. So, welcome, by the way. So that's why I talk about the higher self so much, because it is who you really are, and it is limitless and multidimensional, and it has the benefit of all of the evolutionary experience that you have had in lifetimes here on Earth, in other star systems, in other dimensions. It really is this valuable collection of all evolutionary experience that you've received and gathered over uncountable lifetimes. So here you are in this human lifetime, and oftentimes beneath this veil that creates this illusion that we're separated from our higher selves. Sometimes we get lost. Sometimes below this veil, not sometimes, we usually forget about our connection. We're usually not aware of it. And that's the purpose of the veil, because we're here having a unique human experience, and that veil serves a purpose. Otherwise, we wouldn't stick around. So beyond the veil of our human consciousness, our higher self exists and is always guiding us forward, it's our biggest advocate, it's our most valuable resource, and it's your best ally in this lifetime to create and co-create whatever it is you want. So this is why I put so much focus and emphasis on the higher self, because that's who you really are, and who you really are is limitless. In all practical ways of thinking about it, your higher self is limitless, which means by extension, you are limitless. So if each of us, and let's just talk about 7.5 billion people roughly on the planet, that means that there are a lot of higher selves also associated with this earth plane. Now just imagine for a moment all of these higher selves existing beyond the illusions of separation, beyond time and space, all of these non-physical beings, who we really are, existing at a similar level of consciousness, at a similar vibration. That's a lot of non-physical wisdom and limitless potential out there. And yes, I'm going to use an analogy. I love the analogy of a dog park. And it got me thinking about this yesterday. My sister, who's in California, she and I had a brief video call on the phone. And at the time, she and her kids had taken the dogs out to a new dog park, let the dogs run around. And the dog park is an analogy that I like to use to describe the relationship between our human selves and our higher selves. It's not a perfect analogy. It's useful up to a point. So continue. Please continue to walk with me here, okay? Imagine there are a bunch of humans that take their dogs to a common area that's kind of safe, has some boundaries, and they let their dogs run around. You know, this common area where everyone lets their dogs run around, and the dogs are happy to run around and play. They're sniffing each other, they're playing, sometimes they're fighting. But there's this whole reality going on at the level of the dogs and the way they perceive each other, perceive the world, and the way they interact. There's this whole reality going on at the dog park, but there was also another reality unfolding at the dog park, and that's at the human level, where humans are interacting at a certain level, different level of awareness, different level of consciousness. And so when you go to a dog park, you're interacting with other people, and you're telling stories and getting to know each other, and there might be some business connections or referrals happening during these conversations. I've known of romances that have, sprung from dog park interactions. So the people at a dog park are interacting. Now, these are both happening at the same time, and the people are kind of keeping a watchful eye out, but the dogs are free to run around and do whatever they want up to certain, parameters. So for me, that's a very useful analogy to our higher selves and human selves. We're not always aware of our higher selves. We get to run around and sniff each other and interact and co-create at this level. But it's important for us, and this is why I wanted to share this today, it's important for us to realize that there's a whole nother level of reality unfolding. And that's the level of our higher selves. They are all connected in this vast web of consciousness. We think about the social media that we have available to us on the planet, or the access to information and interaction that we have through social media, through the internet, and so forth. And it's pretty mind-boggling. Well, take that and increase it by a few orders of magnitude, and that's the level of connection and interaction that our higher selves experience, because they exist beyond the illusions of separation and time and space and so forth. So not only is your individual higher self this unbelievable, infinite resource for you, your higher self has access to this vast network across the earth plane of every other higher self on the planet. It's pretty incredible. Imagine if you're in this world, imagine that you wanted to build a house from scratch. You would have to get a lot of people involved. And you think about, how would I go about that? I would ask for referrals. I would go online. I would look for reviews of various businesses and professionals. But there are a lot of bits and pieces and different trades and levels of expertise or teams of people that you would need to identify and coordinate so that you could build a physical house. There's a lot of people involved, a lot of various specialties and so forth. Or think about starting a business. What's involved in getting a business going in terms of information, resources, support, employees, vendors, and then going out and finding clients for your business. There's a lot of work involved in that. And we go for referrals, and we try to network and find the best possible people. Again, taking those examples, imagine that you have limitless opportunities to connect with just the right people or just the right opportunities. And that's what this network of higher selves is available for you. That you don't have to go searching online for the best person who can do your tile work, right? You don't have to read through reviews and kind of decide intellectually who's the best person to do this work. Your higher self, if you will allow your higher self, will guide you to the best possible people, the best possible connections. Your only job is to say, I really want to start a company. I know there's a lot involved. I know I don't have all the answers right now, but I want to start a business. And here's my initial idea. As long as you're communicating that in clarity and with positivity and optimism, your higher self starts to run with that and immediately starts to network through this global network of higher selves for just the right bits of information you need at the right time and the right people. And life can be very, very simple and easy and joyful if we allow our higher selves to show us that path, to put together the best combination of people and at the best timing. Excuse me. But oftentimes we get in the way. I've talked about this before. We love problem solving as humans. And so we'll get in the way and try to figure it out and weigh pros and cons. And, we'll agonize and do some hand wringing over decisions. Whereas if we learn to trust our higher selves and their infinite potential, we learn to trust this vast global network of higher selves that are all aware of one another and able to connect and find the right combination to orchestrate the right timing. If we start trusting that vast resource and just practice lining up with the guidance of our own higher selves, life becomes so much more fun and easy. And I got a thumbs up or a heart. I'm glad that resonates. Why am I sharing this? Well, in my private sessions recently, this has come up where so many of us don't take a step back to recognize how much of a resource we have in our own higher selves, and then imagining, okay, there's a planet full of higher selves that can orchestrate and connect with each other on levels that I can't even imagine. It's just mind-boggling. Once you start thinking about that resource, it's easy to start relaxing about your life and trusting that my higher self is lining things up for me. It has ways of orchestrating and coordinating things that are beyond my human capabilities. Why don't I turn things over to the experts? And then my job simply becomes practicing my connection with my higher self, practicing being in a certain vibration that's positive, holding positive expectation that allows my higher self to give me that next idea, to give me that next inspiration, to say, hey, why don't you pick up the phone and do this? Or why don't you go to this cafe and get a coffee? Even if we don't know why, we're trusting that guidance, those inspirations, because that's going to lead us to meet somebody or have a conversation or get the next idea. And when it comes to your spirit guides and angels, who do you think is the doorman or the gatekeeper of you getting information and guidance from guides, angels, goddesses, spirit councils? Your higher self, of course. Your higher self is the one who allows your guides and angels to give you information when you need it. Your higher self is the one that allows ideas to flow into your awareness. So that's my message for you on this lovely day. It's a beautiful day here in Lemuria, and it's always a pleasure being here with you. I really want you to take some time today and in the next few days to practice being aware of and just thinking about your higher self, this being that loves you unconditionally, that's always with you, that is your true self, and the vast network that your higher self has access to. It is truly infinite. So learn to trust, lighten up. You don't have to figure everything out. Your higher self is much better at this than you are. And if you can practice seeing the world the way your higher self does and trusting your higher self's guidance, your higher self, and you'll get evidence more and more that your higher self is truly guiding you down the easiest path, the most comfortable, joyful path for you, not for everybody else, just for you. So trust that inner being, that wise, eternal self that's within you, because it will always show you the way to all the joy and abundance and satisfaction that you're looking for. Aloha, Cheryl. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the comments. Sarah, lovely to have you here. Thanks for your comments. It's always great to be here with you. Thank you for spending this time with me. And until next time, I send you my love and bright blessings from Lemuria. Aloha.